It's NFL in London podcast, everyone. It is divisional weekend. Wow, what a we're gonna get into the wild card weekend. It was
Ooh,
wild.
baby. It was super
Based
wild.
on our picks,
super wild.
it was super wild. I went 5-1 in our picks. You went 2-4. But we'll get into those.
I did pick the Steelers when I was watching back. I was like, this is why I'm a romantic. I believe
Yeah,
in
sure.
love. So I
I
wanted
don't believe
something
well,
hilarious to happen, and
Mike
it was just
Tomlin
not
believes
meant
in
to.
love too,
Yeah.
I'm sure. But the love is not
Oh,
with
right.
him. Interesting though, because like he quits, and now they kind of have to trade him. Like if he wants to find somewhere else, because he's like, I quit
Well,
before you can even
well,
fire me.
it's kind of like Sean Payton a couple of years ago, where he took that year
Yeah.
off, and then they had to give up a pretty substantial. I don't even know if it was a first. It might have been a first, might have been a second, but it was definitely day two pick at least.
Yeah.
And again, I just think Tomlin just. This is just rinse repeat. The team defense is getting a bit older. Still hasn't figured out the quarterback position. In
Yeah.
a league and watching, in other teams get these guys, and I don't know whose fault it is because like he's Mike Tomlin. He had as much say probably in anyone they drafted over the last few years. So for him not to just be like pounded the chest, but it just shows in the NFL how hard it is to find that quarterback. Even when guys go number one overall, they don't make it. And sometimes a guy. You see a guy like Shuck in New Orleans in the third round, come in, look like maybe potentially wins Rookie of the Year this year. You just it really, to be honest with you, I think a good quarterback, as you see in Buffalo, just masks all deficiencies, and they're like the smart kid in class who does all the work, and everyone else on the team is just getting all the credit because this guy's just like, don't worry, guys, I'll do the project. You just hop on my back, and I'll bring us to A-Town. And I just think he just never figured it out, and now he's just like, I'm not doing this, is because this team is going nowhere. Like it doesn't feel like Pittsburgh's a player away or this. DK Metcalf contract looks terrible, and it's going to be even worse next year with whoever they have. And it's just an end of an era. But I think he'll be back. I think he takes a year off, does a bit of TV, and he'll be back.
Yeah, I think people will want him on TV. You think about it, 18 years, too. I mean, having children, having a kid that gets to 18 years old, it's like, man, you've been there. And literally, once that 18-year-old's out of the house, screw off, we're turning your room into a workstation. So, I think for him and his family, there's a lot of it. He's seen a lot of drama. He's been there throughout of it. You have the whole Aaron Rodgers thing, maybe this is the time, and it's like, I'm done. I'm just done. I'm just tired of this BS. I don't want it anymore. So, and then of course you've got Harbaugh with everyone saying the Giants are going to pick up on him, and what can he do? Is this, a lot of Giants fan thinking this is going to turn the fortune around? He still has a lot of broken toys to play with in that box.
Right? It's a weird signing because his Baltimore team's better than the Giants, and he couldn't get them even into the playoffs this year. So he's going to take a worse roster, and maybe it's just one of those things like after a certain while, I think it just happens. I think you saw with Andy Reid, he was with Philly forever, right? Couldn't get it done. That's what everyone said. Couldn't get it done. Always the bridesmaids, never the bride. And then had to then go into Kansas City and then became dominant. So maybe just with guys like Tomlin, with guys like this, I think the message gets stale after a while, especially if you don't see results, especially because and they're the ones who live in this kind of social media bubble who take all the shit and hear it all, where the coaches are like, I don't even know what Twitter is. And they're just like completely disconnected from reality completely, or anything that the kid. So I think there's a real disconnect. That's why, these coaches like Ben Johnson, these younger coaches are really resonating with players, and I just think guys like him. So maybe he's just there to bring a bit of stability to a franchise that has been a mess for a decade. And I think if that's what you're looking for, just like a grown up in the room, then he's the right guy. Is he going to be that much better? I don't know. I think the Giants have a decent roster with good players, but I don't know if Harbaugh's going to elevate them to this next level.
Yeah, I mean, it's you need sort of an FU coach, and that's what I like about Ben Johnson. He is to have a lot of fire. He's got a lot of passion. Fuck the Packers, that kind of stuff where he gets people fired up, and those are kind of things in sort of Trump's America right now that you sort of need a bombastic leader because that's what people expect, and they want you to lead by your cojones. I don't know. I mean, Harbaugh, and it seemed like there was something going on with Lamar too. Like, it seemed like if we don't do it, he's gone or whatever. And I'm sure the team's like, all right, well, let's just see if someone else can come in. And, they do have a lot of talent there. It's just like they just kept missing out. And maybe to your point, maybe it's just like one of those things. It's just a synergy thing, whereas electrical beings, he wasn't vibing. He wasn't charging with the same thing. So, will be interesting to see what happens with that. Let's get into some of the...
Sometimes couples fall out of love, Wade.
They
Sometimes
do.
couples just fall out of love. It's a sad
I
thing.
love you. I'm just not in love with you. Right.
Exactly.
My ex gave me that on our divorce. Anyway, let's go through some of the wild card games. We talked about this Rams team who was 10.5-point favorites over Carolina. The game was 34-31. Carolina looked to make it a game. I was barbecuing and I stepped out when Stafford hit his hand. And came in, I was like, what the hell's going on? Which obviously I hope it's still broken and I hope it hurts for the Bears this weekend. But Carolina, put some feist in there. I'm trying to I was watching that game going, is it that Carolina is quite plucky, or is it that the Rams are just not as good as we thought?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think it's a bit of both, to be honest with you. I think the Rams defense is not as good as we once thought it was. And I think the difference is the Rams are more than equipped to go into a shootout with somebody. If they just want to go into that heavyweight, let's throw uppercuts. Let's put some guns. Let's do some Russian roulette like in the deer hunting. And I think that, that team is more than willing to do it. And the fact that, again, we saw that Carolina kept this game close before. The fact that Coker went out and had like a big game, again, even though they did win the division, it kind of felt like they were just playing with house money. They were the 8-9 team going against a juggernaut, 10-point favorites. No one thought they had a chance. And they went in there and they took it to him. Like, again, Stafford's just the guy. He's got that experience. He did last-minute drives against Tom Brady. He did it in the Super Bowl against the Bengals, like big moments. And now he's got the guys like Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, all these weapons, and Sean McVay. I wasn't surprised. I think it's just unfortunate that I think Carolina did everything you could ever imagine. If you were a fan of that team, it's just like, but you got to look at this. The only thing that you worry about is like, do we pay? Bryce Young's at least got one more year. I think it's like one more year, show us what you got. But I think with the Tua contract and stuff like that, I think hey, it's your turn, you just have to pay them. I think that's going to start going away because I don't think teams want to be saddled with these $50 million contracts of guys they don't believe in 100%. So I think it was a good year for Bryce, but I think he needs next year, there needs to be a significant jump. And I think he's with Coker and Tet, and get another couple more weapons, figure out the running back situation. I think they lose Daddle. And I think they're a little spicy team that can still be good. But Bryce has to take another step.
Yeah, no, it was a bit of a trash bag division for them to get through. And I think it was surprising when you had that 10.5-point spread that they were able to keep it close. And there was that, okay, are they really fighting here? The Rams, obviously when Stafford's hand got hurt, their limitations were quite apparent. It just seemed like they were really under sort of the gun there, and it was a back and forth, and you're like, this is a team that barely beat some crappy teams, and you're slugging it out with them. The Rams go through, Carolina goes to Cancun, which then takes us into our next game, which was the Bears versus Green Bay. It was a game of two halves, as we talked about just before this podcast with our friend Andre who's listening. Green Bay looking really good at the start of it. Chicago obviously has always been a second half team, mostly a fourth quarter team. Man, we came alive in this one. It was just watching the stadium go off, kicking, being McManus missing on this, but Chicago gets the win. Green Bay gets dumped, and an emotional win. This was a great Saturday night for me.
I'm still in shock of what I witnessed in that game. It was hilarious because it started out when Ben Johnson literally went on tilt almost immediately. He's like 7-2, all in. He was just like playing poker like a man. He was going for it fourth in his own end. He didn't care. He was like, Dan Campbell, it's got nothing on me. I am the truth, the Omega. I thought he was on pace for an all-time bad coaching performance in the playoffs, and in that first half, it looked bad. Like he did everything wrong to kind of set them in this really bad position. I thought again, like it's just these teams that it's just like they get a lead and then they again. It felt like all Green Bay did in the second half was just like HB dives up the middle with Josh Jacobs in the first half, he was moving it. First drive, they were cutting big runs. Second half, the play calling is so vanilla. It was just up the middle. Jordan Love, and then it was just punt. It was just started. What was it, like punt, 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 and you just let him chip back in, and give the Bears credit. Like that 4th and 8 throw that Caleb did
Oh,
was like
beautiful.
an all
The
timer of a
Jordan in the
throw.
air. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like an absolute just spotting a guy, like very Josh Allen-esque of just dipping where no one really thinks you're going to kind of drop it in there. I say these Bears, I keep saying like they can't keep doing this, and they keep doing it. So, I mean, the fact that the weather is going to be terrible, I don't think it benefits anybody, to be honest with you, because I don't think Caleb's as accurate a passer, that huge wind is going to be beneficial to him. I think
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a wild game coming up, but to me, that was just an all-time blunder for the Packers. And again, to do it twice in the span of like 5 weeks, to just let a game up 21-3 at halftime, just let it slip away from your fingers. Is an absolute. If you're a Packers fan, just disgraceful. Your kicker misses what, two fit kicks and an extra point.
Yep.
It was just all time bad. And Jordan Love played excellent. 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Just put his team on his back, dogs. And it was next one falls fully on Matt LaFleur, because this has now become a pattern. And, I didn't really love the Ben Johnson, fuck the Packers, fuck that. It's kind of lame. I get it. But, you're the coach. Have a bit of,
Yeah.
if your players start going out and behaving like maniacs, everyone's going to be like, well, of course, look at the coach who's a psychopath. So it's a
He's passionate,
it's a
Ryan.
fire.
He's passionate about the Bears.
He's passionate. Yeah, he's passionate. Whatever.
Well, when we had Aaron Rodgers going, I own you. I own you. You don't think that
understand
traumatized
why-
Bears fans and we want to come back and fuck you guys? Yeah.
I think players doing it's fine. I don't really care about, but I think coaches, you're the coach. You're the coach. You're the like CEO. Steve Jobs isn't going out there like just whipping his dick out on stage, being like "fuck you, Microsoft," as he should.
He's
But,
dead. We
he
don't
doesn't
know
do
if he did it. He could have. He could have done that.
You know,
I could
so-
have helped. And by the way, here's the iPhone. Let's get into your Buffalo. Let's get into your Buffalo team, because this was a Sunday fun day. Tight game, 27-24 in this one. Buffalo in control, Josh Allen doing it, but it didn't stop the Jacksonville from putting a lot of pressure on you guys.
Yeah, to me, it was just a bit of like, we talked about it before, where it's just like, I think coaches, when it's their first playoff game, they just get a bit of into their bag, or into their like, oh, I'm gonna try and overthink things. Like they were running it really well. They just refused in the second half to keep running it. There was a part of the game where they averaged 7 yards against the Bills, and that's what they were good at. And they just, in the second half, they just came out throwing, and they kind of just, no matter what, they just refused to just commit to the run, which has destroyed Buffalo all year. So I thought the Jags really did themselves a disservice when it was the one thing that was working. The Bills' pass defense, Tre'Davious White looked like, the all-pro from 5-6 years ago, Tre'Davious White, coming out there blocking passes all over the place. I thought Josh Allen was just masterful. He just made no mistakes. He was just up and down, smart little passes. He's not gonna give it away. He's not gonna put his team at unnecessary sacks. Every time he had the ball, you just felt like he was going to drive you down the field, no matter how bad his receivers are. It's just the thing of, no matter what, it's like, we got Josh Allen, Buffalo have the best quarterback in the playoffs right now. So it's like, do you really think that, again, when you start the game, you're like, I think the Jags can win. At the end, you're like, yeah, Josh Allen. Why did I bet against Josh Allen? That's kind of the way I feel about the game going into this week, where I was a bit iffy, but at this point, it's just like, how could you bet against this guy? I know he's kind of, so the fact that this is his first playoff road win, I think gets that kind of monkey off his back. I do worry about the injuries. They lost 2 more receivers, but at this point, It's like they're just playing scrubs off the streets anyway. So it's not like these guys that they lost were world beaters. I think both of them had like 10 catches combined on the season. So it's not, in the run game, I just thought the Bills had a really smart plan, and they made Trevor Lawrence make the mistakes, and Josh Allen didn't make the mistakes. And that was the difference in the game. And Buffalo played a really smart, and I think their defense is playing the best it's ever played this whole entire season into the playoffs, and playing really smart and not giving up big plays, bend but don't break, and get a couple turnovers when you need to. And that's what they did. So again, can they keep doing it? They just keep getting banged up, but I believe in this team. They might be a team of destiny. Who knows? Kind of like the Giants years ago.
Yeah, the veteran leadership really showed. I mean, as you say, Josh Allen led by example. His heart, his passion, being in this game, knowing and being able to sort of, they knew it. and where it seems like the confidence of to me, the Jags wasn't always there. They came in there fiery. We could see them doubting themselves for a second. It's like, once you start doubting yourselves, that's where you're going to find your weakness. It was a power win. It was tight, just like we thought it was going to be. I was very impressed with Jacksonville this season. We started talking about them at the start of the season. They weren't good, but look out, and that division's going to be tough next year, and it's good because they deserve it. So very.
Their run defense
considering
lived up to all
the defense
hype
was good,
it was.
And having two teams from the AFC South in the obviously in the wild card, and we thought at the start of the season this would be in Indianapolis, and Houston comes alive, Jacksonville comes alive. Great football. It wasn't as great football for the Philadelphia, who imploded in this game. This was a 23 game. San Fran with broken pieces, losing Kittle and then watching him drain a whole bottle of tequila on the sidelines was fun, but obviously losing him, not very good for them. San Fran, no matter having the broken pieces, they still get things done. Inspiring win. Shanahan puts it together. Brock Purdy, it was solid. And, you have A.J. Brown. It looks like he's done. He's not going to play there anymore.
No, it doesn't.
And I was watching the Hard Knocks, actually just before this, of just them getting into the game and Saquon and Goddard talking and everything. And, and them being out, and it's done. But San Fran, great win there. Both of us got this one wrong.
Yeah, I know. It's just, again, I think this is just the culmination of all these things kind of brewing and just coming to fruition. And watching, again, like A.J. Brown, from all the talk all year of him complaining or reading his book on the sidelines, doing all this, in the biggest moments, he had huge drops in this game, huge moments to make big plays, and it went through his hands. And I just think, it just feels like this has to be the end of it. I think there's, lots of teams, like Patriots, he's got that relationship with Vrabel. It feels like that would be a natural fit for him. I could see Buffalo, but again, do you want to take on that baggage? How much are you gonna have to give up to get someone like that? I just think it's a testament to just Shanahan that he's just been able to. It doesn't matter who gets injured. Now you lost Kittle. You've already lost half your defense, and you're still playing with absolute heart fire. Purdy's playing smart football. This team again. You had even throwing. You had Jaquan Jennings throwing it to McCaffrey, who had a big game, and they're just a team that again. I don't think anyone wants to play. They're kind of like Buffalo on that side. They're banged up. But instead of their Josh Allen, they have Kyle Shanahan, who's kind of like their Josh Allen, who can kind of, no matter what, just whip up a game plan to kind of take you out. Just a team you do not want to play. I think they handled San Francisco last time, so I think that's a worry for Seattle. Yeah. But this was just, again, I think Philly's already fired their offensive coordinator. It was just a disaster. And I think now Sirianni, again, the venom is out. The snakes are out there ready for it to come after him. So it's going to be an interesting offseason to see what Philly does. They got that wild man, Howie Roseman, as their GM. So everything's open to what they could do. They could make a huge trade. But I think the A.J. Brown, I think you have to get rid of him for Jalen Hurts' sake. I just don't think it works. And I think it'll probably even be better for Devontae Smith, who I think just gets completely ignored because of A.J. Brown. And I think this might make it easier for him and free everything up. I think even the Bills do miss Stephon Diggs, but Josh Allen plays freer than he ever did without him. And I think sometimes you just, like in Tomlin, sometimes it just runs its course and you gotta say goodbye.
Yeah, it made me wonder if A.J. Brown was actually related to Antonio Brown, because they both have that diva-like playing ability, and you almost thought it was like, screw it, like him just waving, I'm out of here, I'm done. There is that toxicity that you take on, and that, sure, he's a good wide receiver, but do you want that drama? And it would be tough, him going to the Patriots, to say, with Vrabel, especially having Diggs there. So, it's good. The Philly's going to have to rethink, and I think a lot of us who thought that their defense was going to lead them all the way realized it wasn't. Let's talk about the most boring game of the week that I watched, and I fell asleep to this game. Chargers and Patriots, 16-3. It's like a big old baseball game. The Chargers just shut down. There was nothing going on in this game. The weather sucked, but it didn't. They got the game going. As they said, Hunter Henry was going to be the guy that got the points for New England, and he was. Just a very slow game, methodical. This was a defensive sort of game. Good for the Patriots. They get the win. Not a pretty win. Not the ugliest, but sort of fugly ugly win. 16-3. What did you think of this game?
It was a classic Patriots win in a way. Like they just, man, I think the biggest story of this is Justin Herbert, and just again to just have another stinker in the playoffs, and this is just
Uh,
becoming the regular season darling. I know he had no tackles, but he's had no tackles before, and he's been able to move the ball. The fact that Mario Hampton played like one snap, one carry, and then
yeah,
was out, so I didn't even realize he was that injured. But it looks like he wasn't even
yeah,
prepared to play. I think again, this is just a disaster. In fact, if you tell me, because I thought the Chargers defense played great. They got Drake May
yeah,
really struggling, especially in that first half. They got some turnovers. They held them to 16 points. If you're a team
yeah.
that has just Justin Herbert in the playoffs and you hold the opposition to 16 points, you should win that game every single time with Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert and Lab McConkey and all these weapons. I know that the
Hmm.
offensive line hurt, but you were playing a great Pats defense. This isn't this dominant ones, but give Vrabel some credit. He stirred up some stuff, and they really came at him, and they were able to hit Herbert, really kind of throw him off his game. It was terrible. It was obviously one of the
Yeah,
worst playoff games I can remember, and I think he's got this thing now. This is a thing now, and he's gonna be like the Marvin Lewis of quarterbacks, right? Just like every time he gets in there, it's gonna just stink it up. And he's got to fix this because this has now become he was even worse this time than he was last year when he was against the Texans. We had that terrible 4 interception game. I thought he was even worse this game. Good on the Patriots, but again, I think the Chargers D gave him that tough time. They got that Texans D coming up next. It's gonna be a wild game.
yeah, I know. And it was one of those sort of choke me daddy, as you said, kind of aspects of Justin, where it's like the defense is doing all the work they needed to do to keep them in the game. Okay, Herbert, go ahead and score. There was no running, there was no anything, and they're just like a lot of 3-and-outs, and you're just like, what the hell are you guys doing? You got to score. Let's get into that Houston game. This one was a beatdown as well. Houston's defense, no joke, as they stomp all over 30-6 all over Pittsburgh. Tomlin gets fired. You can see Rodgers being frustrated. That Texans defense is ferocious.
Yeah.
Stroud and company, Woody Marks get their things done. The offense is okay. It's that defense that you're just like, damn, anyone who plays them. And you wonder, it just reminds me, it's like, can they go all the way with just this defense, just really in the face of people? Because this was a demonstrative beating of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think Rodgers at the end of that game, after the end of the game, he's like, "Yeah, maybe I don't want to play anymore. That wasn't fun. Getting
Take my
my
ball, going
ass
home."
handed to me. Yeah, maybe I'm a bit old for this. I'm gonna go do some ayahuasca, go in the darkness." And I think he's done. I think again that just showed he just didn't have the weapons. I thought Rodgers sometimes, to me, the arm was still there. He still had the zip. He went to a team again that put all their faith in DK Metcalf. Even the last couple of years, it's just he wasn't able to, like Brady, find that situation. Like Brady walked into that situation with Mike Evans and Godwin, and a real, offensive with Bruce Arians, and a real offensive situation. Like he went both times into a situation with like Robert Saleh, defensive coaches, guys who really bad offensive coordinators, Arthur Smith, and it was just, Nate Hackett in the Jets. And he just never put himself in the position and I think it's just his personality didn't get he never should have went into defensive system of this. And this is kind of the always way it was going to end. And I think again, the fact that he goes out winning a division is something. Going to the playoffs, he didn't end it giving Tomlin his first losing record, which I think all of us probably expected him to do.
Yeah.
And I think to what you said, I think you're right. I think the Texans can win it all going with this defense. They're so fast. They're so scary. Every time Bills play them, Josh Allen has the worst game of his career. So if the Bills win and they have to play him again, I don't feel confident that they can move the ball against these guys unless they get some sort of catastrophic injury. But they're so deep everywhere that I don't even think if they got a big injury, it would make that much a difference because they're so strong on all three levels of the defense. So good luck. Yeah, good luck to anyone who has to go against that. But I was a bit disappointed. I thought the Pittsburgh would give him a little bit more of a fight, and Rodgers, a little bit, the magic would have been in the air. But it was clear very, very, very soon that this is not going to be an easy match.
They shut down everything. They were just like that expanding foam. Like every crack and crevice just filled in. Terrifying because you sort of look at it and go, and there's times we've had those Super Bowls before where it has been just two defensive-minded teams that come in there. And you sort of look at that team going, that was a statement. That was a statement game. So let's get into our divisional round, our divisional picks, and we start Saturday, 4:30 game. Buffalo, 12-5, heading into the AFC champion Denver Broncos, who are 14-3. This game went from a pick'em to now Denver favored by 1.5. It's going to be cold in Denver. 46 points is the over/under. Denver struggled against bad teams. You know, they're scheduling a lot of people. There's like, what's going on? Dre Greenlaw looks like he's going to be back in this one. Buffalo, however, is 2-3 in Denver. So how do you think this is going to be for a Buffalo team who struggles against the run, and going into a Denver team who's had an extra week off?
Yeah, I think that's the thing that makes me the most nervous about this game is I think it's how banged up Buffalo is coming up against this team that's been off fresh, just waiting to kind of get out there. They're going to be at home. So I worry that right away, just that this game could go like, it could go where it's either you quiet the crowd right away or they're just pumped and they just go, they they're just out physical them at the line of scrimmage on both sides, because I think they'll just be ready. They heard all the talk about Josh Allen this and Josh Allen that. And I think that's what's going to make this game really tough for the Bills, because I think they're just so banged up. And it's like, how many is it this part of where it's just like you just have too many hits? You got too many injuries. It happened to Buffalo a couple of years ago where they had to bring in AJ Klein off of vacation to guard Kelsey, and Kelsey just schooled them all day. And they were just a team that just ran out of bodies. However, having said that, I think this really matches up well for Buffalo. I don't think this Denver offense is an offense that really scares anybody. I think if you look at it, I would say Bo Nix had a better rookie year than his sophomore year. I don't think RJ Harvey, I think if J.K. Dobbins was playing, I think you could really be like, okay, they can do some damage in the run game. RJ Harvey hasn't really done much in any of his extended time since he's taken over, since Dobbins went down. And I think that the fact that the Bills are willing to let you kind of run on him with someone like RJ Harvey, and the fact that they're going to want to, that kind of plays into their hand where they're the number one pass defense, and they're not really going to want to get beaten deep. Last year, they played Denver. They beat them. The teams aren't that much different. Both of them are pretty similar rosters. I think you said Greenlaw, they got a couple other guys. And I just think this Buffalo's just got the momentum. And I think, again, even though their Bills are the 6th seed and they're the 1, I don't think you can look at these two teams and think that there's this huge gap between that Denver's that much better than Buffalo. I just don't think you can say that. I don't think Denver's played a quarterback like Josh Allen in the playoffs. And I think, if I got to pick between Bo Nix and Josh Allen, I'm taking Josh Allen. I'm not going to bet against him. I feel confident that they can go in there. If Ed Oliver could be back, I think Curtis Samuel's going to be playing. And I'd rather Curtis Samuel than Gabe Davis or Tyrell Shavers, who they've lost. And I think Brandon Cooks has been a real surprise, a guy who's been able to get open, freeing things up. And I just think James Cook he had a good game against him last year, and I think he had a bad game last week. I think Buffalo wants to kind of establish the run. I think they'll take that personally, and I think James Cook has a really good game, and I think they can control the clock a bit more, unlike they could do last year. And it's not going to be so much on Josh Allen. So in that, I am saying Buffalo wins this game. I'm going 24-20.
A lot to digest in it, and I think there's something to be said for a team being over-prepared. And we've seen it before, where you've had that extra week off, and then you're just not ready because you've gone through everything. You've tried so much, just like we'll get into with Seattle. Maybe you get somebody injured, or maybe you overthink. And there's something coming in raw-dogged, like where Josh Allen is, where you come in, you win this game through emotion and grit, and then you realize, let's keep going. And you're ready. You've been fighting. You've been jockeying. You got a week, and you're ready to go. Which is why I too am taking the Buffalo Bills. I think that Denver, they just don't. If you're going to slug it out back and forth, the defense is good. But looking at that Houston defense, you go, well, that's a different animal right there. That whole Houston defense is crazy. Denver's got a great defense. They've had a shutdown defense. But you don't, when you have a mobile quarterback like Josh Allen, who's going to beat you with his legs, it's going, okay, yeah, I can read this defense. I'm going to do this. And the defense is like, oh, crap, he's running again. I can see Denver coming out, maybe getting a lead, be like 14-3 the half, and then Buffalo just puts it on. I've got it 26-21. Buffalo wins. I just think the grit, and when we talk about who the MVP of both of these teams is, it's going to be Josh Allen. He's the guy that's going to lead it, so I've got him to win. The second game on Saturday, 8 o'clock, is San Francisco 12-5 going into Seattle 14-3. The line was 7. Now, they have said that Sam Darnold is injured. He's injured his obliques. And so there's some chances that they're going to wait and see how injured he is. Tearing your obliques sucks because you get ripped down, you get thrown down. I've had it happen before. It hurts like hell. So this is something you take a wrong hit, man. What are they going to do after that? 7-point favorites, 45 points is the over/under. How do you like San Fran after this emotional win? Now we saw them play before, where Seattle just beat them again. I think it was like 12-3, 13-3, something like that. Where they couldn't do anything against that Seattle defense, and that's again a really hardy thing because you start looking, and go, oh God, is it going to be Seattle and Houston in the final? What do you think about this? Yeah, and everyone just sitting there going, oh my God, you got any more beer? How do you feel about this San Fran team going into Seattle?
Again, I feel somewhat similar to the Buffalo one, where I feel like, is it just you've just taken too many hits, and now this is where the rested team is just ready, chomping or champing at the bit, whatever one it is, ready to just come at you. But I think where the difference is, I think losing Kittle is a big loss. But again, they've lost Kid. They've played without Kittle for years. Like, these always seems to be injured every year.
Steps in.
So, and Tom just comes in, plays well. So again, even though it's a big loss, I think emotionally, spiritually, this guy is just a guy who gets his team. He's like a WWE wrestler. He wants to be a wrestler. Like, he's a guy who can get that kind of team going. I just think Seattle's defense is just going to make it too hard on Purdy. I think, again, losing with the weapons that they're going to struggle. And I think, again, I don't think both one seeds are going to lose in a big upset. I think if anyone is, I think Buffalo, the fact that Josh Allen is a much harder play than Brock Purdy. They played each other. They know each other. I think they're just going to find it hard to move. If they can shut down McCaffrey, I think you want to force it into Brock Purdy's hands because he didn't have a great game last time he played them. And I just think Seattle has a really good coach in Mike McDonald. I think he's going to have that defense ready, kind of like Houston, like in the way that they play. And I think they're going to make it hell. So I'm going to go in a nice, not a really high scoring game. I'm going to go 2017 for the Seattle.
I've got it 21-18, and talking about that, because it was Philadelphia that had sort of knocked out San Francisco the previous year. I think there's that emotional battle. Yeah, let's beat these guys. Let's beat them. You lose Kittle. And there's just too much broken bags there. And obviously you want to avenge that loss where they beat you there. But this just feels like a bridge too far. It feels like that it's a hill that you really struggle to climb. And I think that defense, when you watched it the last time, just how strong they were and just how much pressure they put on them, I just can't see San Francisco motivating themselves. They were doing tricks. They were throwing a use check. They were doing all these different things. And this defense is no joke. And, once they put you in that position where you're starting to make mistakes, I think San Fran's come a long way, but this is where it ends. I've got it 21-18. Let's move into our Sunday game, 3 o'clock. Houston 12-5, heading in New England at home, 14-3. 3-point favorites in this one. 41 points is the over/under. Houston played in Pittsburgh. They know what the cold is like. And New England getting that emotional win, not getting a lot of points, but they get the win last week. How do you like New England's chances against Houston in this D?
I like it a lot better than the fact that Nico Collins isn't going to be playing. It doesn't look like he's going to be playing for Houston. I think the Patriots it's always, they had Jamar Chase when he had his suspension, Lamar got hurt their game right before. It all falls into place. And that's why I'm taking the Patriots. I just think everything's just falling into place for them for this to be this Buffalo New England kind of matchup. I think it's going to be really hard for Drake May. I think this Houston defense, again, what they do really well is that the fact that they play really good man defense and the fact that Drake May doesn't have the receivers to kind of get open. Stephon Diggs in his playoff games, going back with Buffalo, is always kind of disappointed. He only had 16 yards last game. And I think they're just going to make it really hard. I think this game is super low scoring. The way Stroud wasn't able to really do anything last week, it was turnover machine against Pittsburgh. And the way that New England and Vrabel were able to confuse Herbert and hold him to 3 points. So they held Herbert to 3 points. Stroud with no Nico Collins, I feel like they can hold him to like 13, 14. I think this game is super low scoring. I don't know what the over-under is, but I would take 41. The under. Yeah. To me, honestly, I think this game is like 17-14. And I think New England wins. I think Drake May wins it with his legs. I think he's just going to be forced to kind of. I think it's going to come down to fourth down, fourth quarter heroics. I think this game comes down to whoever has the ball last. And I feel like Drake May's just going to. It's just that kind of year of magic for him, kind of like Daniels had last year on
Yeah.
Washington. It feels very similar. And the games get big, but I don't think Drake May is going to go out and throw the ball around the yard on Houston at all. I think they're going to really make his life hell, and he's going to get hit, and it's going to be hard. He might do an ugly turnover, force him into a bad play. Again, this guy's young and never played in games of this magnitude. No matter how big of a bowl game you played, there's nothing like divisional playoffs with these teams coming at you. But I just don't know how Houston's going to score, to be honest with you. They have no weapons, and I don't believe in Stroud. I believe in Drake May more than Stroud. So I am picking New England to win.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've been back and forth in this one. I actually have New England as well. Losing Nico Collins, one thing. I mean, you can rely on Schultz and Woody Marks, but, New England's going to plan, they're going to scheme, and they're going to find ways again, because Rodgers was not a mobile quarterback. So you know that he's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Whereas, as you say, Drake May can. And they've got two different running back threats. I think Hunter Henry, again, is going to be the difference in this game. He's got great hands. May always seems to find him in these middle crossing routes where, again, they get another 10 yards, another first down, move it. I have it actually going to overtime when I've looked at it a few ways. I'm like, this is going to be tied 17-17. 17-17. It goes to overtime. New England wins by a field goal. I've got it 20-17. To your point, I think that they've got more tools available for them. Stroud has not looked as good as he used to. And that's going to be an issue for him as well, in that the New England defense, they don't seem to get to the quarterback as much, but they don't allow him to make a lot of mistakes down the field. And, Stroud's going to have to use his legs, and I think he'll be in trouble as well. A big emotional win for them, but this is a different beast than playing Pittsburgh. I've got it 2017. The 6:30 game, Sunday night, the last game, 11:30 in the UK. The Rams, 12-5, heading into Chicago, 11-6. 48.5 points the over-under. The Rams are favored by 4 in this game. I am worried right away because obviously when you have Puka and you have Devontae Adams, there is a potential to be shredded in the backfield, particularly with Chicago losing a couple of defenders last week. We seem to be able to put the pieces together, but it is in Chicago. The temperature is expected to be around -10 Celsius with a wind chill, so it's going to feel about -20. They say it could possibly be the coldest game. I'm in North America right now. It is currently -18 right now where I am. It's hell. Yeah. So you got to get used to it. But again, the Rams have played in cold weather before. Matt Stafford's used to it. How do you feel? I know you love the Packers last week. What do you think about my Bears this week against the Rams?
To be fair, it was all looking great for like 90% of it, to be fair.
It was. Yeah.
This one I'm back and forth with. I think there is still a bit of that. I think the fact that there's a bit of like McVay wants to win this for LaFleur because of that speech. I weirdly think there was even something McVay said in his press conference. He's like, Matt LaFleur's my good friend. And I was just like, he's just like, I want to put a beat down on this guy. Because I think, again, there's a bit of that. McVay also wants to be like, I'm the young stud, not you. Like, I'm the headliner. Yeah. You're still the. So I think there's a nice little coaching rivalry in it. I'm really back and forth in this one because I do think the Bears can easily win this game because I haven't been that impressed with the defense of the Rams the last couple of days. The fact that it just feels like no matter what, they haven't been able to do any big stops. I just think there is something about momentum. You know what? I'll go with you. I'm going to go with the Bears to win this one with you. I will go. I just feel like, again, like with the Patriots, there's just this weird team. And I've been saying it for like literally a month that you just can't keep winning this way. And they just keep doing it. I do think it's going to catch up with you. I do not think they're going to the Super Bowl. But I also think that this gives you some sort of weather advantage, I think is a bit far off because, Caleb, he hasn't really played deep games like this. He's a California kid playing in California for USC. So I think this game is going to be really tough. I think the Bears just kind of just feel like this weird, funny team of destiny. And I'm going to go 27-24. I just think the Rams have just been a bit weird lately. And there's something off about them where it's just giving up points. And I just think that as long as Ben Johnson doesn't go fully crazy, go full tilt in the first quarter with fourth downs and getting down early, I think they'll be okay. So I'm going to go with the Bears, with your Bears to win it.
I've got LA. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, I've got the Bears in this one. So I'm worried about Puka, obviously, because this guy
you just have to accept he's going to do it, right?
He's going to do stuff, and Devontae we have a history with. I think the cold weather, look, we've been practicing in it, prepping for it, so Caleb's used to it now. He's a Chicago boy now. The one thing that I think that LA really struggles with is the run. And we get Monangai going, we get Swift going, we just bash him. We do some tricky-dicky plays involving getting DJ Moore, some stuff around. Loveland has been absolutely great.
Yeah.
And then when we start talking at the start of the season, I was like, is this good for a number one pick? Now you're like, damn, like 100 yards a game this guy's getting.
It's getting hot at the right time.
And I think that Chicago feels it. The Bears, the city of Chicago feels it. Everyone feels it, that we're like, we can do this. Tell me you would not love to see a Buffalo-Chicago Super Bowl. I think that would be the best thing for an NFL in London podcast, considering you and I will be watching the game together in England.
Yes. It'd be great.
I think it's going to be great.
That would be
I've got it 28-27, 1 point.
Oof.
Because I think the Rams might have a bit of a lead, but when the fourth quarter happens, I think we're going to turn it on. And the thing is, we talked the regular season, the Bears were number one in takeaways in terms of picks. I think that can happen in this game. And I don't know how healthy Stafford's hand is, but you saw what we did to Jordan Love. So look out, Stafford. Bears win. That's it, everybody. That's it for our divisional picks. Hope you guys enjoy it. Make sure you watch the games and share this podcast with everyone. Good luck to everyone in the divisional contest this weekend.